Hi and welcome to the Unconventionalists. I'm your host Mark Leruste, and each week I sit down with unconventional purpose-driven leaders and have candid conversations about their successes and failures and lessons they've learned from both. And in particular, I'm always curious and keen to hear how do they manage to turn their message into a movement. And in today's episode, I sit down with George Bettany, the co-founder of Sanctus and the host of Talking Business. And it was an amazing conversation where we talked about why actually we really need you to be you when you run your own business, why actually showing vulnerability and having the courage to show the parts of you that you might be a little bit afraid of is the secret to purpose-driven leadership. And finally, we talked about why mental health is going to be the biggest industry ever. It's a really exciting and powerful conversation. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, make sure to subscribe to this channel and let me know by leaving a little review below. And the biggest compliment you can give me is to share this video with someone you know. That's it for now. Enjoy the powerful conversation, because powerful conversations can change people's lives. George. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
For those of you who have no idea what's going on, I've just spent 30 minutes trying to set all of this up. Like, hopefully there'll be a good angle on you. Hopefully people can see us and stuff. That'll be really cool. George, thank you for coming, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, generally really appreciate it. And, one of the things I'm excited to talk to you about today is we'll kind of exchange a little bit of your message around like growth mindset versus scarcity mindset, all that stuff. But before we get into that, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, really good. I've been excited about, I don't think I've probably been asked maybe once to come on somebody's podcast.
Yeah.
So when you asked me, I felt honored and for some reason just excited.
Cool,
for some
man.
reason just like, it's a little trip out of the office for me to come and talk to you.
Yeah.
I've listened to some of your stuff and I know you've been listening to some of mine. So
yeah,
I'm really excited.
Mate, I think you've got a really cool, fresh podcast actually come out. We're going to talk about it called Talking Business. Yeah. So tell us a bit more about like what got through your head when you thought about recording that podcast, when you thought about launching it, what made you want to launch that in the first place?
I think it came out of, I don't know, like I was kind of having conversations already with, within my circles, within my group. And every time we talk about business in a certain way, people would kind of say, oh, you can't do it like that. Or, business isn't that, or isn't this. And the more I started to talk about it, the more I was like, hold on a minute, I believe a certain way, and I kind of want to get that message out there. I want to get that kind of the things that I believe. I want to just talk about and see if other people think the same. And then the more, obviously with Sanctus building the company, I've grown in confidence around some of the like inner beliefs that I've got around business. Sure. So after doing it for 2 or 3 years now, I've just felt a bit more confident in putting my own thoughts, voice out there a little bit, because I'm like, I've kind of got a bit more to prove what I think. So yeah. And did they start off by like voice notes they used to send to your team? And like, I remember Scotty kind of making a bit fun, like in one of your episodes going like, oh yeah, send them all of them. He made a song or a theme song or something. I forgot. Yeah. But like, these were like voice notes that you used to send. Yeah. So there's 2 parts to it. So Talking Business came from, even the phrase talking business, but I think people expect me to be talking about, numbers and financials, and there's a certain perception of business that people have the minute you say it, money, power, whatever it is. And actually it's a lot about just kind of the human side of it that a lot of the time I found myself talking about. And the more honest and vulnerable I was on the initial longer episodes, so Scott co-hosts the longer episodes with me, the better response I had. People would message me, say, oh my God, that little snippet there was amazing. Yeah. And to me, I didn't know that snippet was good at the time. Sure. But I realized it was the bits where I was being really honest and vulnerable with Scott, who works for me and for Sanctus. Sure. So I just started thinking, how can I take that even further? Yeah. And what I do is I'll often voice note on WhatsApp the team, friends. Yeah. And it's probably the most raw snippet of my brain you can get, rather than just
curated, polished.
I'm not very good at writing blog posts. I find it difficult, but speaking and just getting it out there, it's raw. Yeah. So I uploaded a really short 2-3 minute voice note to the podcast, and that did better than the longer 40-minute episode. So then I kept uploading these voice notes, and people just kept saying, keep doing that.
Were you surprised by like the response that you got from it?
It's the first time I think I've ever had people sharing it and sharing something that I've done. Like it's me. All it is me.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever had,
you
know, your response that the way you responded and messaged me to say that it had like even just a small impact.
100%.
Made me think, fuck, wow.
Yeah.
You know?
And why do you think that is? Why do you think that people, like, out of maybe different things that you've done or said, why do you think this medium is a medium that people were like sharing, even reaching out to you saying, George, you onto something, this is really cool, keep going. Like, what do you think resonated? What do you think landed?
I just think the way I want them to be is almost like nobody's listening. Like I'm almost sending it to you and then accidentally uploading it, and then thousands of people can listen. Yeah. That's I really want it to be the real raw truth.
Is there a person you have in mind when you record them?
I think I need to get better at it, but my dad comes to mind, or JMO a lot of the time. I actually might start just addressing them to people, because then actually it really will be very personal. Yeah,
and well, I think there's truth in that, in the saying that I've been writing on and off a newsletter for like 4 to 6 years. I don't even know yet. But one of the things I always used to do is I used to imagine, who am I writing this to? And so even though I was sending it out to my mailing list, it's nothing big, but even though I was sending it to my mailing list, I always had one person in mind. And what I found by doing that exercise, that people would then come back to me and said, it felt like you were talking to me. Because I think if you have someone in mind, then so many people can kind of resonate with that. So you put this out, right, Talking Business, because for those also who are JMO, so James came on the podcast episode 110. We talked about Sanctus and the origin story in the beginning. We'll get a bit more about that. But one of the things I found fascinating about your podcast, Talking Business, is that just how raw and honest you were. And I know it's a word, that's a buzzword, authenticity has been thrown around like so many times. But you're having conversations with someone who effectively works with the organization that you run and you manage, and you're talking about, how am I failing you as a leader? Like, my insecurities as a leader. Now, is this something that's always been natural to you? Have you found it easy to talk about that kind of stuff, or was there a time where you actually would never thought how far you've come?
Great question. I've had to really work on it. I think we ran a business before this, and the way I did it was kind of, I tried to protect the team and the employees a lot. So any fears, doubts, concerns, I would just share them with JMO and keep them to myself, just because I thought that was protecting people. And what it did was create a distance and a gap between me and the team, because I knew certain things and they didn't. And it created a lot of stress and discomfort for me. I'm holding all this stuff. So what I've realized is, running Sanctus this time, we kind of, subconsciously, unconsciously made the decision not to do that, and to try and talk as much as we can about everything with everybody on the team, so that everybody, it's ultimate transparency. And so from day one, I've had to work at that. It's been really difficult. And there's still levels to that I still haven't got to quite yet, around money, financials. It's still, sure. I still...
What's the resistance?
There's a line between... I kind of want people to still feel safe. Yeah. There's a line that I'm still treading where there's transparency and being honest about stuff, because I want people to know. But there's also a line of, it's a good question. That is the question. Like, it's almost like a parent. Like, if you know the house is gonna crumble, do you know what I mean? Like, how much of your do you tell your kids? Yeah. And how much do you hold because you want them to feel safe and not really. But we've pushed it, and the voice notes are a great example, because the team listen to my voice notes. So, and the podcast, so they know everything that I'm thinking. So apparently, like another George who works on our team, his mates can't believe that I talk in that way. And they're like, what, do you still feel safe working for this guy? He's basically saying he doesn't know what he's doing. He hasn't got a clue. Yeah. He's not been doing too well. And to hear George say to me, mate, keep that up, that makes me feel safer, makes me trust you more, makes me know you more and want to work for you more. Sure. It just reinforces like my inner belief that that's the right thing to do.
Isn't that funny though? Like, I think there's this counterintuitive movement that's happening that I think you're one of the leading voices, at least that I've seen in the space, around actually what's good for business is to be real and to be honest and to be truthful and to talk about your insecurities, show your vulnerability, not be afraid about telling employees when you don't know, instead of sitting there and saying, of course I know, and then panicking behind the scenes. And yet, as you heard from that reaction, people go, like, you want to work for that kind of guy? Like, he's like, really, like, is he reliable? Is he efficient? And I guess the question behind that is, if you could speak to someone who's listening to this and who's leading a team or leading a project or even just leading their lives, and they're afraid of showing that part of them, like, what would you want to tell them?
Another great question. I've always been really jealous of musicians, artists, YouTubers now. They just give their full self. They give it in their music online. It's so vulnerable. So if you think at the top of each game, like it's the sports game, kind of, music, Ed Sheeran, the fitness game, Joe Wicks, you just feel like you know them because they're being so raw. Yeah. And look how good that is for, in inverted commas on this podcast, business. Sure. They're smashing it. And the rawest, most honest YouTubers are the ones that you love and feel emotionally connected to. They're the ones that are making, that's a real big business. So, yeah, I just feel like you shouldn't do it for that reason. Sure. Because then that's the flip side. But, I've heard that me being vulnerable and authentic is going to, increase my popularity. X revenue. Exactly. No, but none of these guys did it with that intention. They just did it because it's pure. Like the word, just being yourself and pure it's like people just love that. Yeah. And then as a result, people want to work, for you or buy off you. Like I've seen it with our relationships with customers. It's ridiculous. Sure. Because there was an article that was written about that around, like, we don't pretend to be something we're not. We don't pretend to be bigger than who we are. If we don't know, we just say we don't know, like, that we can get that back to you. We've never done that before. And actually, a quick left turn here. I got James to talk about this, but so I met James the first time when he was just starting off back in 2016, and it was just still like mental health and startups and getting a few groups of people together. And I remember through that transition getting an email one day and saying, hey, my best mate's coming down and joining. And do you remember the conversation that you had with James around getting you on board of Sanctus? And if so, what was the moment that you went, okay, I'm in? Yeah, I remember it really well. I feel like I didn't answer the last question.
Go back and answer, mate. No, go back and answer.
Because you were like, what's the advice to people to be who are in life? And I would just say start small. So, start by being really honest with, like, the people around you a bit more. Yeah. And just try it, just try it and feel the response. I just think it's been new for me, but the more I've done it and stepped into it, all I've felt is good. All I've seen is good things. So, and then it encourages you more. So, and hopefully just me proving some of that stuff will encourage others. Anyway. Is there a line that you felt that you've crossed and you kind of go, okay, I went a bit too far here, I need to bring a little bit back? Like, is there something never
yet?
There hasn't been a point yet. Yeah. There hasn't been a point yet. Yeah. And that's the key. Do you know what I mean? That's the key. Is, keep being honest. So
cool.
What was your second question?
The question was about
Sanctus,
just what got you?
So obviously, did he tell the backstory of?
Yeah, I mean,
so
we hold the whole story of, like, the backstory about how
dropping out,
all that stuff,
tech company,
we did all
doing
that,
it wrong,
yeah.
And then basically we needed time apart. We'd live together, work, best mates, co-founders, live together, work together. It wasn't good for our own mental health. Long story short, and you lose yourself in people listening when you give so much of yourself to something, and it doesn't work. Especially when you're, for me, I was a bit younger. It just hit us both hard, and I kind of lost myself in it. I was a bit of JMO, a bit of Match. It wasn't me. Yeah. So I had to kind of go away, work in a few different companies, like rebuild myself a little bit. And then basically I had a job for Ignite, who are an investment company effectively. And when I was there, I was investing in startups, founders, and working with investors. And I just built, my confidence just grew because a few things happened. I always felt like the investors were really smart and then you had all the answers. That's kind of what I was sold and kind of what I thought. And I was sitting in rooms with investors and they didn't have, they had no idea what kind of, they were making it up just as much as the entrepreneurs were, but they were just doing it behind closed doors. Sure. It was kind of like, and I was accidentally, just because of my job, sitting in this room, like the entrepreneur, secret entrepreneur.
Because you'd been on that side of the table.
I was like this entrepreneur that got this lucky opportunity to sit in on these board meetings and these investor meetings.
Yeah.
And then meeting with entrepreneurs, it made me realize, fuck, like I thought when we failed with the first business that it was all a waste of time, that my network or my learning, I was a failure, I was a joke. What I realized was I had 3 or 4 years on these entrepreneurs that I was investing in. And it just gave me confidence, because I was like, fuck, I can see that really clearly for some reason.
Yeah.
But
I hadn't realized.
It sunk in once I heard other founders talking about things that I realized I knew.
Yeah.
So then it was stuck with me, like, hold on a minute. I haven't failed. I've still got this knowledge and experience in me. I can't change that anymore. And then for some reason my confidence just grew from there. And I then started getting the bug. I was jealous of these founders who were in the trenches trying to figure it out, and couldn't get a first sale and didn't know where things were going. I was like, oh God, I was a degree away from the action. I wanted to be in the trenches doing it. Yeah. And me and James chatted pretty much every day anyway. So obviously I knew I was there pretty much, on his side, listening to him, talking to him, helping him. And as I started talking like that, I could just feel JMO's energy picking up, like,
sure.
Because he wanted it to be the right time for me as much as him. And then it just got to the point where we had a phone call, and I remember I was in the office. I was like, mate, he was saying what he needed, and I was like, mate, I could do that. Like, and to be honest, I want to do
it. Was it like, what, I need someone to come and do the biz dev or sales, what was it? He was
literally telling me things that were ridiculous, like, people are paying me, mate. And I was like, have you asked them to pay you? And he was like, well, not really. And I was in this office trying to help founders get one sale.
Yeah.
And he had accidentally got 3. Yeah. And he was so in it that he didn't even realize that was good.
Wow.
And he hadn't even tried to sell it.
Sure.
And the way he was talking, I was like, mate, like,
you could see
I could just, and obviously, like, we're so similar in so many ways. So it wasn't just that, it wasn't just the sales thing.
Sure.
It was everything. Yeah, and I could see it really clearly because I was out of it.
But it was different than what you felt from the first startup, right? I'm going to guess, like, the feeling that when you was talking about it, when you're getting that energy, and when you're thinking about, surely there must have been like a different visceral feeling to Sanctus than there was to,
100%. It was, and because he was so almost far ahead in his thinking and his development, because he was going through this kind of his own stuff. At first, when he tried to articulate Sanctus to me, it wasn't really, he couldn't articulate it because he was so in it.
Yeah.
But the more he did, and the more work he did on himself, the more I just started to see it myself. And I feel like I was the first person to really eventually see.
Yeah.
And then I was like, fuck, it's everyone. It's not just, it's
Startups,
me as well. It's that it just really clicked. And,
cool.
and the feeling I had, like, I've always been really, like, if you speak to like my brother and sister or friends, like, I suppose that I've just got this thing where life, since I was really young, like, life's short. I want to make the most of it.
Yeah.
I want to get the most. I want to help other people get the most out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way JMO was talking about it to me, I was like, fuck, it's so deep inside. I couldn't even articulate what that was, but I felt it. Emotional thing of, like, helping people get the most out of life, helping people move through stuff that holds them back.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt so right. And we just had this chat and on the phone, and he literally said, mate, I've been waiting for you to I've been waiting for you for this call.
Come home,
for this call.
Yeah.
And from there I was like, what, you want me? He was like, yeah, do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, do you want to do it?
It's like dating.
It honestly, it was like, bam, and then I was like, okay, right, shit, this sounds like it's happening. And then went from there.
So crazy stuff. Because am I right in saying that you used to play football at some point, or were you at some point had a trajectory thinking you're going to become a professional football player? What was the background story behind that?
You've done research. I was like academy level football until I was 18. So my whole childhood was that. Basically 5 times a week. My dad driving me up there.
What happened?
Wasn't good enough.
Is that
it even
right?
hurts saying that now. It's, I didn't want it enough. I was just naturally good, but I never really gave it everything. I didn't love it enough. I always tell this story. There was a lad there, the one lad that's really made it. He would just turn up every morning, even when they told him not to like training's not on, mate, and he'd still turn up because he loved it.
Yeah.
And I just didn't love it.
Yeah.
So as a result, I didn't work that hard at it.
Yeah.
And there's no way I was going to succeed. But
what's hard about saying that out loud now? Because I'm just curious, just picking that up. You said it's hard to say even that now. Is it because it's kind of coming to terms with it? Is it kind of letting that go?
I think accepting that you're not good enough at something. There's two sides to my football bit. Is like, one, I definitely didn't love it enough to really give it everything. And I was probably too young to really understand that concept. But the reality was, even if I did love it, I wasn't really good enough. I was good, but not good enough. And that's really hard to... Even now, like, it's 10 years on and I'm still get a bit of a lump in my throat when I say I was not good enough. And like, for anyone, you know, if somebody, it kind of, you just have to say to yourself, you know, accept what your strengths are and accept what your weaknesses are and step away from it. But
and
it was hard at the time.
Yeah, I bet. And then again, what I've learned from this podcast now, over 110 episodes, sitting across some incredible humans like yourself, things happen for a reason. I mean, you know, whether you believe that or not, it's like, had that not happened, you wouldn't be today changing people's lives and helping people through their mental health and that kind of stuff. I mean, who knows, you know, what could have happened, but...
True. And I think the other reason I feel a bit... there's something still in there for me. I should probably explore this with a therapist.
Get yourself a Sanctus coach.
100%. 100%. I think it's because I didn't give it everything, and there's something in me that I wished I'd have bowed out knowing I'd given everything, and then they told me you're not good enough. It's like lingering, and I know that lesson has actually taught me so much, because with Sanctus, I genuinely feel like I'm doing that. I'm applying what I regret essentially into something else now. Yeah,
exactly.
And it drives me.
Well, and I think what you're speaking to is something that a lot of people can relate to, is how many times do we self-sabotage ourselves almost to not do something we want to do because at least we're in control of it, as opposed to what if we try our best and then we actually don't get it? Or if we do try our best and we do get it, then what? You know, there's Marion Wannington, I think, something like that. I forgot her name now. Anyway, but said something about, we know it's not the shadow that we're afraid of, is actually the light. Like, it's being great that really scares us. But mate, everything that you part of that experience has shaped you today. And there's footy fitness. You know, just talk a bit about that. So like
that, I don't know. I won't talk much about that. It's just like a little side project.
Yeah.
Like, I injured my knee playing football last year.
Yeah.
Had an operation. Wanted to get back into it. I've started this little kind of it's like a fitness club.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It's been, what I really love is, you know, I can be honest about Sanctus. We've got 10 employees at Sanctus, 35 coaches. You know,
that's incredible.
Revenue this year will be 7 figures. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
In fact, definitely. And do you know what? Like, footy fitness makes no money, and it's like a little project.
Sure.
But for some reason, I just love starting something and just creating something out of nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It just feels cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And it gives me perspective on, sometimes when you're so in it, running a business, you lose all perspective of how good it is.
Yeah.
So there was one point last year where all I could focus on was the negatives, all the things that were broken. And actually, like, from the outside, people kept telling me, mate, you're smashing it. Like, you've got all this good stuff. And I couldn't see it, because every day you have to turn up and fix problems for it to move forward. So by having a little side project, it allowed me to look at those problems differently, because I was like, oh my God, we've got customers. Oh my God, we've got an amazing team. Oh my God, we've got a brand that people care about.
Yeah.
It just makes you really kind of, gives you perspective.
Yeah. It sounds, I mean, just from how you speak about it, it sounds like you've grown quite a bit in the short amount of time you've been running Sanctus and Peanut Sanctus.
Oh mate, like last year, 2018.
Yeah.
The voice notes have taken a bit of a kind of back.
Yeah, I noticed. I was looking today before. I was like, the last one you wrote, I was like, hey George, I'm going to call you out on this. Like, we're missing these.
People are messaging me, which is amazing. But do you know why? Because last year I learned so much about myself. Yeah. Putting myself out there like that, coaching, being in the mental health space, working on myself. I went to places I've never been before, mate. Not necessarily dark places, but just parts of myself that I'd never explored. It's so new. So got to the end of the year, I went home for like Christmas, and it just needed a few weeks to process it all. It was like 12 months of just personal growth every day.
Yeah.
Learning to be a leader, learning to run a company, learning so much about myself all at once. And I got to the end of the year, I was like, wow, I've learned. Wow, I felt different being around my family. I felt this new sense of like self-awareness that I've never had before. So I was literally a bit like, this year, I just want to just sit in that for a bit. I don't want to keep, it's almost like I don't want to keep studying. I've studied and studied and studied.
Yeah.
Now let me apply what I've learned in the real world. I don't want to keep studying. Let me have a few months of just like soaking up this new George. Let me enjoy it. And then I'll go again, and probably I'll be ready to go even further. Yeah. And the voice notes help me do that. The voice notes help me articulate things I'm learning, put things into words. But right now I'm kind of in a mode of just being.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's you. I don't know. I mean, I felt the same way back 2018, big year. 2019 feels 2019 feels the year of like recovery almost of
really?
but yeah. And I think there's this pattern that can happen, especially in the kind of growth, self-development, self-discovery, what do you want to call it, that it can get quite addictive. You know, there's a part of it that can be quite like, oh, surely there's another book I need to read. There's another program I need to follow. There's another hack. There's another this. And before you know it, you're just chasing all this stuff, acquiring the information, but you're not actually living or implementing it.
Mate.
You know?
Honestly, like I've got a voice note in me that just says, it's a podcast episode, like something like too much mental health or just fuck off mental health.
Yeah.
Something like...
Yeah.
Fully agree. Fully agree. It's like that needs to be talked about. I kind of, as like the founder of a mental health startup, I want to talk about the fact that, you can do too much. And I probably did last year. That's why I was only seeing the negative, the kind of downside, because I was constantly looking at how can I improve as a person? How can the company improve? It's relentless. So you have to... it's hard to pull yourself out of that as well. 100%. It's hard, unless somebody told me to.
Well, one thing there's a few points I'm really interested to pick today. One of them is that there's one thing being with your best mate and a couple of mates starting a startup. It's another thing to manage payroll, be in charge of people's kind of livelihoods, and 35 coaches, incredible. 10 employees. Like, what have you learned about yourself as you've gone through this process of going from startup founder to startup founder and leader of team, leader of people? Like, what's been like a big lesson?
I love these questions, mate. I literally, you're good at this. One of the traits people used to have for me, one of the names I used to get called, which I used to hate, was flake, like flaky. So I would hate saying no to things. If you invite me on something, I'd be like 100% yes. And I'd say that to everybody. Then it would come to the day before and I'd realise I'd overbooked. So I'd have to let 2 people down at the end because I got so excited about doing stuff. I realised like I can't keep doing that. I need to...
So, sorry to interrupt. Do you think you were too excited to do things or you were too uncomfortable to say no?
Potentially both.
Okay.
Yeah, potentially. But I'm just like, I just get excited. Oh, that sounds amazing. 100%. Without even looking at my calendar.
I'm glad you didn't cancel today's interview.
I mean, this is one of the things I've been working on. Like, without looking at my calendar, I have to say yes. And I realized like being like, a man of my word and yes or no means that. And I think that taught me a lesson of kind of just basic organization, timekeeping, just being organized. And I think what I've learned, this going back to your question, I think I've been entrepreneurial because I've wanted to not live the way that, I don't know, there's a number of reasons why I'm entrepreneurial, but I wanted to break the mold or whatever. Uni, for example, didn't like being told where I wanted to be. So I kind of created my own thing and then dropped out. So you've kind of got this rebellious rogue side to you, which doesn't like organization, doesn't like discipline, wants freedom, which is why probably you start something. And then when you're managing people, I can't be like that with payroll. I can't be loose and be like, oh, sorry, guys. Sorry.
Forgot it.
Yeah, whoa, sorry. Next week, maybe. You have to, those things around yes and no and being organized, I have to live and breathe it because I've got responsibility to other people now. And the minute that changed for me was when we first hired Vic, our first employee. It could have just been us two. We could have ran a nice kind of healthy...
boutique kind of
really
lifestyle.
We'd have been so free. I could have done that. Lived how I wanted, do what I want. But I've sacrificed that part for this bigger thing that I want to achieve in my life, this bigger impact, this bigger mission. And as a result, you know, they're the things I've got to do.
Yeah.
That's my responsibility. It's like being a parent. I've had to grow up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really, really hard.
So what are you proud of about yourself, about what you've kind of grown into?
I think being able to accept some of those, like, you know, I did like a kind of an Enneagram this year, like one of these reports on yourself. I would never do something like that, by the way, a year ago. But that's how I've gone inward. Yeah. I'm really proud of myself, how people that know me know that that's not my natural state. My natural state is to keep going, push on, you know, work harder, do more. And actually this time I've been like, well, just by being around the kind of people I'm around, I'm so lucky. Yeah. You know, people asking me why, you know, why do you want to keep going faster? Just sit with that. So I've sat in this uncomfort, and it's made me go inward and learn so much about myself. And just being able to accept things like I've just said to you then, you know, being able to accept that, you know, I did used to be flaky, actually. Just accepting that and sitting with that. I'm just proud that, I'm just going there. I'm letting myself go to different places, and even though it's uncomfortable. Yeah, that sounds like a weird thing to be proud of, but
no, it's cool. And you know, anybody listening to this or watching this, really recommend to go and check out, you know, Talking Business, just purely because, you know, there's a combination of the show notes, well, the kind of notes the voice notes that you send out, you know, the quick kind of snippets, like, you know, this is a great day, or, I feel like shit today, you know, it's really great. But then with Scotty, when you talk and you go a bit further, I think it's a real demonstration of authentic, vulnerable leadership, which basically, one of my favorite parts, I think I forgot, is what you said, when you realized that you didn't have all the answers. You know, and you were kind of talking with Scotty about something about, you know, the challenges of actually leading people and not knowing and that kind of stuff. And one of the kind of the big, I don't even remember the first one, I said, hey, mate, I just listened to this and I'd love to get on the show to talk about this. It's the idea of, you know, it's been thrown around, scarcity mindset versus growth mindset, all that stuff. But really I heard you say once, and there's only two people I've heard talk about this. Carly Wheatley, who's been on the show, the founder of Paleo Supply, and yourself. And it's that idea that actually I don't need other people to do badly for me to feel better about myself. I don't need the competition. I see them as competition, as a threat. And actually, if everybody's doing better, then that I'm happier. So is that okay? Cool. When has that always been the case? Have you always been like that?
Yeah, I don't know whether it probably comes down to something like honestly, like I'm really close to my brother and sister. Yeah. And I'm really competitive, so I always wanted to be like I'm the oldest, so I wanted to be kind of, you know, the best. Everything that I did, I'd want people to know I'm the best. Sure. Which is weird. Maybe it's because I was the oldest, but then I wouldn't want them to not succeed. Like, I'd still want Lucy and Hen to do well, so I'd be competitive, but I'd also want them to be there at the finish line with me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to like trip them up at the start, and then I run on with my hand in the air. The way I'd do it is I'd run, make sure I'm winning, and then look over my shoulder and be like, come on. Like, I'd motivate, come on, Luce, get up here, come on in. Yeah. And that's just how I am day to day. Like, I do want to do well, and I'm motivated and competitive, but I want everybody to come up with me, or alongside me, or past me, and then I'll want to get, you know, if you go past me, I'll definitely want to get there with you, and that will probably motivate me to work harder. But I definitely don't want. I just want people to do well.
But that, you know, and it's funny because, you know, the way that you say it, and even when I'm hearing you now, and it's like for you, it's almost like, yeah, of course it makes sense. You know, it's like, this is how it should be. But I'd say 99% at least of the people I know, and this is me included, and this is something, my shadow that came across for 2018 was the realization of like, wow, there's a massive insecurity about other people's success. Like, when I see other people succeed, I feel inadequate, right? I feel like, oh shit, there's something wrong about me. Like, I'm not good enough, you know? And I think there's something about that I think is really interesting to explore. And that is, why do you think people, like including myself, have this idea that, oh shit, if they're doing well, then that means I'm going to suffer, or that means I'm shit?
No, it's such a great point, because I've definitely been there, and I always am, you know. Let me think about it.
Because I'm guessing it must be hard, because if that's not how your modus operandi functions, to get in the skin of someone else, but probably hard. But therefore, what would you want to tell them? Maybe that's a better question. Like, what would you want to tell people?
Yeah, I remember when, so in the void almost between Sanctus and the previous company, there was a gap where I saw other people running businesses and I was really jealous of them, and I really wanted to be there. And the gulf felt huge because I had nothing and they had they had something. Yeah. And I remember the more like you say, the more I watched of it, the worse it made me feel. And it's not like this is the difference though. I didn't want to bring them down. It just made me feel, like not great. So, but at the same time, it made me realize that I do want to be there. You know, there was a good side to that. There was kind of a jealousy, but there was also
like a drive almost, like a kind of a.
There was also they were inspiring me as well. At the same time, there was jealousy because I really wanted to be there, but it also made me realize because I failed the first company, I honestly asked myself the question, George, do you want to be an entrepreneur? This is my head. You failed football, you failed business. Maybe business isn't you. And what I realized in that little void, in that grey bit, was that the things that kept drawing me were businesses still. So I realized, like, no, George, like, you're still really interested in this stuff. It still excites you because you keep looking, you keep watching, you keep reading. So it gave me an inner belief or confidence that, like, no, this is you, George. And then for some reason, once that really sat with me, I just stopped worrying about what other people are doing. And then, I do feel really fortunate and lucky that Sanctus is, kind of then suddenly seemed to present itself, and then I feel lucky now that I've relaxed almost because I've got something,
Yeah. Who do you see today? Like, I'm just curious, in your kind of field and space, like, do you have, I don't want to use the word competitors because I'm trying to move away from that language, but do you see like peers in that kind of industry where you kind of go, mate, they're doing amazing, or is there someone like out there that you're kind of comparing yourself to, and if so, I'm just curious about what's the kind of the internal dialogue going on.
Internally we never focus on that. We just talk about people and individuals that use Sanctus and our partners, and we just only focus on that and work with that rather than thinking, oh, they're doing this, we should do that as well. We just have really close relationships with the people we work with. I must admit, I do get, again, competitive. Kind of, if I see people in the mental health space doing things, I don't know what the right word is, poorly, or kind of, cowboy-esque, where in my head I feel that's not safe. That doesn't feel pure to me. That doesn't feel like they're doing that with the best intentions for people. That's when I don't like it. That's where I feel competitive in a way. Not because I want to beat them, more just because
you want to serve your people better.
I just feel that's dangerous. I get scared that kind of that the space could turn into that. Yeah. Whereas when I see people doing great things, I'm like, come on, like, rise with us, sort of thing. Yeah.
What do you think is the future of mental health? Where do you see it going?
I think it's going to be the biggest space ever.
Say more, unpack that.
It will be the biggest industry ever.
Yeah.
I've 100% like get that down in a quote. Mental health will be the biggest industry ever. It's the more I work in it, the more it almost overwhelms me. Yeah. It's every single person, everyone. So if you look at physical health, think from the whole spectrum, from cancer research through to the Nikes and the gyms, that whole spectrum of physical health.
Products and services,
It's billion. It's every single person. Mental health is exactly the same, if not like more. Your brain, your mind is everything. Yeah. And when you really start seeing it and feeling it, honestly, I feel it. I'm like, fuck this. It's not just, it's going to take an entire cultural, global change. It's not just Sanctus kind of, we'll be a player, I hope, but there's going to be, we'll just be the Nike or the Adidas. Yeah. And for that, there's so many different ways to work on your physical health. Yeah. So many ways to, from physios to your doctor to the charities and research units to the gym to think about that. And we're only just scratching the surface. The way I always think about it is my dad told me when runners started running in the 70s, I think it was the 70s, running on the road, it was seen as this kind of wanky thing. It was like, what are you doing? That's for athletes. You don't run. Think about that. 50, that's 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And think about it now, and what that means, running means.
Yeah.
I honestly think we're just at the start of that journey. I think in 30 years' time.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but it's really interesting. I had a chat this morning with a previous guest from Daddy Life, and I was talking about this. Like, when I was working at Movember from 2012 to 2016, like we were talking about raising awareness and funds for mental health and men's mental health, but no one was really paying attention, and not that much. And then the massive shift happened when Heads Together came. Like, suddenly when the royal family got behind it, the press kind of got behind it, and suddenly there's the start of this wave of mental health. And I think I agree with you in the sense that it's really at the start of this kind of seismic change that is happening. But I love how you're actually positioning as like, think about the physical industry as a whole and all the different services and opportunities that are there. Now imagine that translated to mental health, and look how actually there's a huge market and growth opportunity, that comes across. Couple of last questions. One of them is, for people listening who are in organizations and who are leading people, one of the biggest challenges I find with like the business that I'm trying to build and grow and go into companies is that you're kind of hitting this wall where people go, oh yeah, no, but because I do employee engagement, right? So trying to get people to feel like a sense of purpose in their work, finding meaning, etc. And one of the things they say, oh yeah, we do that once a year. We have a well-being day. We're 4 days a year. We have someone come in. You can come in and do this. And I find myself to have to kind of almost go, wow, I'm trying to convince. I'm trying to sell something which for me feels so normal and logical, and yet if I make up these excuses, oh, it's not ready, they're not getting it, blah 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 blah. Like, what is it about that you find? Is it a question of, don't sell, share, tell the stories? Like, why do you think it's still in this companies today? Because I know that you guys don't do too much outreach, but I'm sure you still talk to people and go, mental health. I know, we know you can do that once a year or four times a year.
In the early days, we definitely I met so many businesses in 2017, and there were so many that just weren't there. I was the same. I was having to convince them, no, mental health's important, guys. No, it's everyone. It's everyone in your company.
Yeah.
They'd say things like, there's a couple of employees we were a bit worried about, which is a great starting point. But I could tell that I was going to have to educate them a lot more before they sort of saw what we were seeing.
Yeah.
So for those companies, we said, to be honest, I don't think we're ready or you're ready for us to work together. And we kind of moved on. But we only had like a handful that really got it. Like, literally, I remember meeting Jonathan, who's the founder of Cranberry Panda, a small recruitment business. And when I met him...
I know Cranberry Panda. I knew a guy who used to work there
years
ago.
Cool. Yeah, Jonathan's legend. He was one of our first... Is
that Shoreditch, where they're based in? Yeah.
He was literally... He told us, he was telling us how important it was. And he got it more than us. He was the first person to say, oh, lads, Anyway... And they're the people, they were our first 4 or 5 technically customers. Yeah. We were just having conversations that we didn't even try and sell them anything. We literally were just talking about the problem of the perception of mental health at work. And it was like that we could work together on that. And then that's where the product came from. And all of our in fact, a lot of our partners now, that's the kind of level we're on. It's almost like we're just so aligned. And I just think for anyone listening, when I think about the previous company, I was trying to force something that people didn't need or want. And actually, like, people will be ready when they're ready for something. Like, especially with mental health, there's a lot of friends. I'm the perfect example. I'd be the last person to sign up and work on my mental health. It's taken me a long time to get there myself because I wasn't ready. And you can't force that on somebody. You can't force somebody to go in and see a therapist. They have to want to do that themselves. It's the same with a business. It's the same with, if you've got something that you're really passionate about, what I believe is you should get that out there. Talk about that in any way you can, because that's inside you. Get your and that will attract a certain potentially small group of people.
That's so interesting.
And within that small group, don't try and force the sell, but it will come from that.
It's really interesting
because you attract people that believe the same.
And
that's modern, people, we haven't got a sales team because we don't believe in sales. I genuinely, I'm done with. I don't believe in it. I think you talk about something, you talk about a message, you share that attracts a certain amount of people. They're your customers, even if it's just 5 people. If we only had 5 customers now, I'd be happy with that, because I'm like, we believe this. These 5 people agree. Done.
Yeah. Mate, that's so interesting, because what I've realized when you're saying that is there is actually one really amazing CEO who basically saw me talk at this event where I talked about the importance of scaling caring instead of obsessing with the growth factors. Actually, what does caring as a culture mean, and blah blah blah. So anyway, nice. I gave this talk, and he really enjoyed it. We have a chat, and I was telling this to my partner the other day. That's why I'm kind of laughing and smiling. He gets it. Like, he's the one that said, when I was talking to him about, the problem that's happening today, especially with the younger generations around showing up at work and not feeling fulfilled, and wanting meaning and purpose instead of just big paychecks and perks and all this stuff. And he was like, yeah, that's what we need. And like, I want our people to be like purposeful. I want our people, and it's rare. I mean, I have a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and he's the one where he ended up working with him around. He's like, okay, cool, work with me, and then see how that feels. And if that feels good, then let's spread it across the organization. Cool. And so instead of me celebrating that, of going, wow, I've got my first early adopter, I've got my first kind of, real gem of a partner, I guess, in your language, I went, but there's only one who gets it, and all the other people don't. Does that mean that it's a completely flawed problem? It's people don't get it. And so just focus on the people who get it.
For the first year, we literally had 5 customers really, and I just spent all my time with them on the phone. I was so happy. Because I think I'd had such a scarring experience with Match Chat where nobody cared. Nobody needed. We weren't solving a problem. So this time around, 5 people, for them to care that much, and then within their company for all those people to care as well, I was like hooked on this feeling of like, oh my god, like they give a shit. And then I just focused on that. And then what happens is, if you create a product that is amazing, people will talk about it, and then that's when the next wave of customers come from, because you've given so much to those 1, 2, 3 customers or people. They go home and say, oh my god, this Mark guy, he's doing this amazing thing. And then the next person comes, and it's the purest way to sell. Like, if you think about the things that you buy day to day as a consumer, we hate being forced to banner ad pop up. It's the worst thing. So don't try and sell something to me that I don't know I need. Educate me, talk to me like a normal person. I remember there was business meetings in the early days, and people would be on edge because they were waiting for me to sell them. They were waiting for me to go, no, I know what you've just said, but you do need this, and this is why, and I'm going to force sell you. So it took them a while to realize, like, even the way I was sitting in the chair, just kind of relax. To be honest, I just really want to learn more about how you do things at Company X. Yeah. And they'd be like, what? You're not going to... No, to be honest, I don't think we should work together. Like, I don't think... And then the more content you put out there, the more honest you are. My meetings I've had in 2018 were crazy, because people would come in, and because they've heard my voice notes, listened to my podcast, seen my videos, seen the content, they know what they're going to get already. They know me.
I get that.
So when we step in, there's no kind of game of like, I don't quite trust you yet. I'm not going to give you everything.
Cards against your chest.
You're going to sell me in a second, so I'm not going to tell you everything. Instead, it's just, let's have a conversation. And then they're really honest and vulnerable, and then I can actually understand what their problems are. Can we fix them? If not, maybe it's somebody else that can do that. Yeah. It's just...
But it's funny, isn't it? Like, it reminds me of one of my partners, Daniel Priestley, had a standing ovation at the Gary Vaynerchuk live event he did in London, because he got on stage. He was basically saying, oh yeah, here's basically, this is a formula, and he didn't pitch. He wasn't pitching anything. And so at the end, they're like, aren't you going to pitch anything? He was like, oh no, and by the way, there's like 100 free books at the back of the room. Just take them. They're yours. Wow. And everybody just stood up and kind of like, because it's that awkward thing, especially when you go to these kind of live events. It's like, here's Facebook ads 101. And then, by the way, here's my 10 grand program that you can buy on the back. But it's $2.5 grand today if you buy in the next 10 seconds, But anyway, we wrap it up, man. There's so much more I'd love to ask you, but we'll get you back another time. Yeah. We're going to do a quick fire question. Mm-hmm. What does being a good leader mean to you?
I think I'd like to look back and people say, when they look back on their life and be like, George, I love working with George. He had a big impact on me. That's
cool.
That's if I can do that, then I feel like I've done well.
Yeah, cool. 5 years from now, we meet up. You have a coffee because I don't have coffee. I'll have a green tea, something like that. What do you want to say you're most proud of about what Sanctus achieved?
I feel like a similar thing. I think if people, for people to say Sanctus has had an impact on them, I genuinely, I know we're already getting that, but I think if we're still doing that in 5 years' time and people are still saying Sanctus did this for me, then honestly, it would be amazing.
Cool.
So yeah.
Get crazy. 10 years, you walk in front of a news agent, there's a magazine, and there's something said or a newspaper said about Sanctus, like something's just happened, a cool, exciting thing. What's that exciting thing?
I would say, we've got this big vision to launch a mental health gym or like a consumer brand. I would love that newspaper to be about that, like we're a brand that people recognize. And when you look at I would love it if you look at that newspaper and the brand, like you're like, oh, it's Sanctus. I would love that. Because that means we've obviously done something right if people walking past know the brand. So yeah.
Cool, man. What does being unconventional mean to you?
God, these aren't quick fire, mate. These are deep questions. Deep questions. Unconventional. I think everyone. The first word that comes to my mind is just everyone. Like everyone is unconventional in their own way. Everyone's different. Everyone's unique. So embrace that and sit in that. Embrace that. And unconventional. Like who says you're unconventional? Like what does that even? Yeah. I'm almost like, what does that even mean? Like certain people will think being a certain way is unconventional. Yeah. But to you, that's you. Yeah. And just fucking embrace that, live that, enjoy that. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah, do that.
Before my last two questions, I just want to acknowledge you for a second to say, first of all, thanks for all that you do. Thanks for your honesty, your vulnerability, for having launched Talking Business. It's one of the reasons I want to get you on here, but also the work that you're contributing at Sanctus. I think you guys are just doing some incredible work. I really, really do. It's amazing to see actually the growth that you've had, the impact that you're having, but more than that, the passion and the way that you're doing it. I think there's one thing to have results and impact. It's another to have actually a way that feels with your integrity. You've learned so much and you're giving so much. So
thank you.
Genuine, hand to heart, just want to say, thanks for that. What's one thing most people don't know about you?
I'm trying to think of. I feel like you've got me thinking deep rather than think, most people would say like, I could juggle.
No, mate, we've had all sorts on the show, man.
Yeah. I don't know. I think showing this side to me, being a bit more honest and stuff, I'd say people that don't know me as well probably don't know how much of that I've got. The people that are really close to me know I've got loads of this, but I'm only just getting used to sharing it, basically. So something along those lines.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
You are walking on Piccadilly Circus. The big kind of digital screen that appears at the top of I don't know what the hell it is, TDK or Sony something.
Yeah.
And you can have a message written there that Londoners will walk by and look up and read. What would you want that message to be?
Just, I want to distill it. Something like, life's short and just I just get the most. I genuinely I really want people to just appreciate the fact that one day you won't have this, we won't have this, one day you will die and it will end, and I just don't feel. Genuinely, this is probably another topic, but like death and stuff, I don't feel like we talk about.
That is another topic.
It's a huge topic, but something along those lines of look, that is going to happen. It's a reality, so get the most out of it.
Something like life's short, make the most of it.
Or you're going to die one day. Just smashing it. I don't know. And just be, so.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Mate, appreciate you. Where do you hang out the most online? Where can people find you?
I would say, so on Instagram, I'm probably busiest at George Bettany, which is my surname. And follow me on there. And then there's links to the podcast, and Sanctus, Talking Business is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and then
cool,
obviously
man.
Sanctus at Sanctus.
Mate, I couldn't sign this off episode without saying get in. Boom.
Thanks so much for having me.
Really appreciate it. That was fucking awesome.
That's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with George. It was a genuine honor to sit down with him actually and to really see how you can defy all the old managerial books and playbooks of being a leader. And actually by saying sometimes I just don't know, we don't know, we don't need to pretend to be anything that we're not. And to explore that line, is there a line that is too much vulnerable, too much transparency, too much kind of wholeness? So that was really exciting. And the fact that they're going on track to being on 7 figures is truly extraordinary. So make sure to go and give some love over to Sanctus and also to George. And if you've got any questions, anything you'd like to comment, please put them in the comment section below. And next week, we'll be sitting down with yet another unconventional purpose-driven leader. So make sure to subscribe to this channel not to miss that conversation. Thank you so much for being part of the journey. Your purpose matters, and I can't wait to see you step up into your leadership. Until next time, have a good week.